Black CEO mocked by wealthy white Dynasty minutes later, she erases their $1.9B Lifeline. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Who told you you were allowed in here? The words snapped through the ballroom like a whip, sharp enough to slice through the music and the murmurs. Every head turned. The chandeliers above rows of crystal blazing with warm gold seemed to tremble in the sudden silence. At the center of the marble floor, beneath the sweeping pillars and velvet drapes, a woman in a satin yellow camisole stood rigid, one arm thrust forward, finger pointed like a blade at the black woman facing her. Her voice rang with the kind of authority only entitlement could manufacture. "You heard me," she continued, stepping in. "This room is for people who belong, people with standing, people who were invited." A ripple moved through the crowd, suits shifting, sequins catching the light, faces tightening with anticipation. Not one person intervened. Not one person looked away. Across from her, the black woman stood perfectly still, a green silk top draped over her frame, understated yet stunning beneath the ballroom lights. Her posture was straight, her gaze steady, her presence quiet but cutting. She didn't flinch, she didn't shrink, she didn't offer a single word, and that silence only inflamed the woman in yellow. "Oh, come on," the woman scoffed, loud enough for the nearest circle of guests to hear. "Don't stand there pretending you're one of us. I've never seen you at any event that matters. Who exactly do you think you are?" Her voice laced the air with venom disguised as etiquette. The crowd inhaled, drawn by the spectacle high society's favorite sport. Behind the black woman, a man in a fitted navy suit stood like a pillar. His jaw tightened, but he held firm, letting her lead, letting her decide. He knew this energy, knew this room, knew the cost of stepping forward too soon. The woman in yellow closed the distance until her breath almost brushed the black woman's cheek. "This space is curated?" she hissed. "Every guest here was filtered. And then there's you walking in as if the rules don't apply." Someone in the back whispered, "She's really doing this?" Someone else murmured, "Does she even know who that is?" But no one stopped it. Not yet. The woman in yellow tilted her head, letting her voice drip slowly, deliberately. "You're out of place, and you need to be shown the door before you embarrass yourself any more than this." Still, the black woman remained unmoved, not in fear, not in shock, but in assessment, quietly taking measure of the woman who had mistaken volume for power. "Say something," the woman in yellow demanded. "If you're so confident, say something." The black woman blinked once, calm, controlled. A stillness so precise it unsettled even the chandeliers above. But she didn't speak, not yet, because she understood something the woman in yellow did not. Power doesn't rush. Power doesn't tremble. Power waits and lets everyone else reveal exactly who they are. And in that gilded room, under the crushing silence her restraint created, the balance shifted. Guests began to look at her differently, not as an intruder, but as someone whose calm meant something. Someone whose presence disrupted the hierarchy they thought unshakable. The woman in yellow felt it too. Her confidence faltered for the first time. Her voice tightened. "What are you staring at?" she snapped. "I asked you a question." Still, the black woman offered no reply, no apology, no explanation. She simply breathed once, slow and deliberate, a breath strong enough to say, "You have no idea who you're speaking to." And in the next moment, the moment that would unravel an entire billionaire family, her silence became the sharpest answer in the room. For a long, brittle moment, no one dared to breathe. The woman in yellow tightened her jaw, as if the silence itself offended her more than any reply could have. She drew herself higher, shoulders pulled back, trying to reclaim the dominance she'd felt only seconds earlier. "I'm talking to you," she snapped, enunciating each word like a scolding schoolteacher. "It's rude to ignore people who are addressing you." But the black woman still didn't move, didn't blink. Her stillness wasn't passive anymore, it was confrontational, elegant, and alarmingly controlled. An older woman in a navy gown leaned toward her husband and whispered, "Why isn't she reacting?" Her husband murmured back, "Because she doesn't have to." The man in the navy suit standing just behind the black woman's shoulder shifted slightly, not stepping forward but positioning himself as a presence. His expression didn't change, but the small adjustment said enough. "I'm here. I see you. And I won't let this go too far." The woman in yellow noticed. Her lips curled. "Oh, I see," she said loudly. "You brought backup. Cute. Very cute." Her voice dripped sarcasm, but there was a crack in it now, hairline but growing. She raised her chin, scanning the circle of onlookers. "Does anyone here know her? Anyone? Because I certainly don't. And this event is invite only. So unless someone can vouch for her," a man in the back coughed. A woman beside him tugged her dress nervously. No one spoke. The woman in yellow smirked triumphantly. "Exactly. No one." She turned back to the black woman. "Last chance. Tell us who you're with, and maybe I won't have security escort you out. This is a private gala hosted by my family. We curate our guest list." There it was again, that word. Curate. As if people were art pieces, to be displayed or removed at her convenience. The black woman's gaze lowered slightly, not in submission, but in the way someone looks at a puzzle piece they've already solved. A quiet inhale lifted her shoulders. A quieter exhale dropped them again. She still said nothing. And the room felt it, the pressure shift, the imbalance in power tilting in a direction no one expected. Her silence was not the silence of someone cornered. It was the silence of someone measuring the room, measuring the consequences, measuring how much of herself she would reveal. The woman in yellow mistook that contemplation for fear. "Unbelievable," she said, rolling her eyes. "You really thought dressing up in silk and walking into a chandelier room would make you our equal? That's honestly adorable." The crowd murmured. Not agreement, but discomfort. The woman in yellow didn't notice. Her confidence inflated again. "You know what? I think we've wasted enough time." She flicked her fingers at a pair of security guards near the doorway. "You can go ahead and—" But she stopped mid-sentence. Because at that exact moment, a man near the back lowered his phone slowly, eyes widening. Then another, and another. Subtle vibrations rumbled through the pockets and handbags of guests, a chorus of alerts chiming under the golden glow of the chandeliers. People glanced down. Brows furrowed. Expressions shifted. The black woman didn't look at her phone. She didn't need to. The woman in yellow heard the notifications, saw the confusion, and whipped her head around. What is that?" she demanded. No one answered. One guest touched his ear, as if confirming what Head just heard. Another stepped back, staring directly at the black woman with a dawning recognition that drained the color from her face. The woman in yellow's bravado faltered. For the first time, she hesitated. And in that hesitation, in that tiny fracture, the room finally understood something she didn't. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is the drum roll. And the show had only just begun. The pings continued soft, staggered, echoing through the marble hall like distant warning bells. What began as a handful of alerts grew into a low, rolling wave of vibrations humming through clutches and tuxedo pockets. And with every new buzz, eyes drifted not to the woman in yellow, but to the black woman she had tried to humiliate. The shift was subtle at first. Then it wasn't. A man near the champagne table frowned, lifting his phone closer to his face. Another guest covered her mouth as she read a message. A pair of bankers exchanged glances sharp enough to slice. The woman in yellow finally sensed the change. "What is going on?" she demanded, voice rising with a thin thread of panic. "Everyone is acting strange. Someone explain." But the guests weren't listening to her anymore. Their attention kept slipping magnetized, unwillingly toward the black woman in the green silk top who stood almost perfectly still, as if the chaos blooming around her had nothing to do with her at all. The older man, likely the father, the host, the man who believed he owned the room, stepped forward with an irritated grunt. "This is ridiculous," he barked. "Probably a network glitch. Nothing more." But even as he said it, his own phone vibrated. Once, twice. Then a third time, insistent, he glanced down. His face drained so visibly that 3 people actually gasped. The woman in yellow grabbed his arm, alarmed. What is it?" What does it say? He didn't answer immediately. He stared at the screen as though the words themselves were impossible. Finally, he lifted his gaze, slow, stiff, terrified, and looked at the black woman. Impossible, he whispered. No, it can't be her. The woman in yellow whipped toward him. What are you talking about? Who is she? Another alert chimed from across the room. Mine says the lead authorization just went active, same apex meridian. Wait, tonight? Here? What does signatory override mean? The ballroom, moments earlier buzzing with cruelty and confidence, now trembled on the edge of dread. The woman in yellow blinked rapidly, panic beginning to claw at her voice. Stop! Stop looking at her! She didn't do anything, but her insistence rang hollow. Empty. Afraid. She turned back toward the black woman, who still had not spoken. Not once. Not even now, as the entire room slowly understood that something critical had shifted. You, the woman in yellow stammered, pointing again, but her hand shook this time. You're not who I thought you were, are you? The black woman finally moved. Not much. Just a small shift of weight. A slight turn of her chin, but it felt like an earthquake. Her partner in the navy suit stepped half a beat closer, not shielding, not interfering, simply synchronizing with her like someone trained to move with power, not ahead of it. The woman in yellow swallowed hard. What is happening? She whispered. No one answered her. Because in that moment, one of the board members from the far table, an older woman in a midnight gown, slowly approached. Her heels clicked lightly against the marble, each step unnervingly respectful. She stopped exactly an arm's length from the black woman, and then, with the kind of composure only fear or reverence can create, she inclined her head. Miss Williams, she said quietly, if you need a private room for the final authorization, we can prepare one immediately. The entire ballroom inhaled at once. The woman in yellow froze, eyes wide, voice cracking as she whispered, Final authorization for what? The board member did not look at her. Instead, she kept her eyes on the black woman and said, For the $1.9 billion withdrawal directive. Silence detonated through the hall. The woman in yellow staggered backward, bumping into a table. The glassware rattled. No. You're lying, she sputtered. She can't be that person. But the room already knew. The alerts didn't lie. The posture didn't lie. The silence didn't lie. And as the chandeliers cast long, trembling shadows on the marble floor, the black woman met the gaze of the one who had tried to humiliate her. And in the quiet between them, the true hierarchy finally revealed itself. The woman in yellow stood frozen, her breath trembling as the words $1.9 billion withdrawal directive echoed through the ballroom like a verdict. Her father, usually loud and immovable, stared at the board member as if the ground had shifted beneath him. His grip tightened on the back of a chair. The knuckles went white. This must be a misunderstanding, he stammered. She can't be, she wouldn't be. But the board member cut him off gently, respectfully, almost fearfully. She is. And she's the only one with the clearance level high enough to activate it. Another message alert chimed one sharp note that sliced through the already shattered silence. A man in a silver tie lifted his phone and whispered, It's true. The system logged the signatory presence 2 minutes ago. Her presence. The ballroom seemed to tilt. Guests who had once smirked at the confrontation now shifted uneasily, their bodies angling away from the woman in yellow, as though physical distance could undo their complicity. The woman in yellow turned back toward the black woman, her face drained of every ounce of color. You're her? She whispered. The one who decides the fate of our entire company? Still, the black woman didn't speak. She didn't need to. The room was speaking for her now. The older man, her father, attempted one last grasp at control. You should have identified yourself, he snapped, but the edge in his voice had collapsed. If we had known who you were, none of this. Her partner stepped forward, not intrusively, not aggressively, but with the calm certainty of someone cutting off a dangerous sentence. She doesn't owe you identification, he said. Respect shouldn't require credentials. A low ripple traveled across the room. A few guests lowered their eyes, ashamed. The woman in yellow swallowed, blinking rapidly. I didn't mean I didn't know she was important. The black woman's gaze lifted slightly, just enough for the chandelier light to catch the edges of her eyes. It was the first shift in expression since the confrontation began, subtle, controlled, devastating. A board advisor approached carefully from the right, hands clasped. "Mom," he said to the black woman, his tone steady but wary, "the system is waiting for your final confirmation. If you prefer to step into a private room, no." The single word didn't come from her. It came from the woman in yellow, soft, desperate. She stepped forward, eyes glossy with panic. "Please don't do this. You don't understand. That money, our company depends on it. Our employees." But before she could finish, her father grabbed her arm sharply. "Stop!" It wasn't command, it was fear. He turned slowly toward the black woman. His voice dropped to a low, unfamiliar humility. "If you withdraw the funds, we won't survive. We're already at the edge." The board member's phone buzzed again. She glanced down, her eyes widened. "Sir." The press just caught wind. They know a signatory override was triggered. This could hit the markets within minutes. A pulsing dread filled the hall. Even the chandeliers seemed to dim. The woman in yellow wiped her palms on her gown, shaking. "Please," she whispered, "you're not like us. You're composed, rational. You can't possibly want to destroy us." The black woman finally took a breath, slow, measured, and the room held on to it, every inhale suspended in anticipation. She looked directly at the woman who humiliated her minutes earlier. Not with hatred, not with triumph, with truth. "You destroyed yourselves," the black woman said softly. "I'm just giving the consequences a place to land." Gasps rippled outward. Her partner clasped his hands behind his back, solid as stone. A new notification appeared on the board member's phone. She read it. Her pulse jumped. "Ma'am, the system is now requesting your final biometric. Once confirmed, the $1.9B Lifeline will be withdrawn permanently." The woman in yellow inhaled sharply. "No, wait, please don't." But the black woman had already made up her mind. You could see it in her posture, her stillness, the way she held the silence like a blade. Her hand moved toward her phone, slowly, steadily, unstoppably, and the entire room tilted into fear as they realized there was no undoing what she was about to do. The moment her hand moved toward her phone, the ballroom seemed to exhale a single collective breath, one long, trembling inhale of people who suddenly understood just how small their influence truly was. The woman in yellow staggered forward as if to stop her, but froze halfway, struck by the weight of the room's shifting gravity. Every guest, every shareholder, every hanger-on who had laughed moments earlier now watched the black woman as though she were the axis on which their futures spun. And she was. Her thumb hovered over the screen, not trembling, not hesitant, just steady, the steadiness of someone who spends her life making decisions with the precision of a surgeon and the consequences of a storm. "Please," the woman in yellow whispered, voice cracking. "You don't have to do this. I was wrong. I crossed a line. I'm asking you not as someone powerful, but as someone who made a mistake." The black woman didn't lift her eyes. She didn't need to. Her posture said everything. Your apology is not repentance. It's fear. The older man, her father, still clenching the back of the chair, forced himself a step closer. "You need to understand," he said, attempting dignity but landing on desperation. "Our entire operation is hanging by a thread. Without that 1.9 billion, well, collapse. Hundreds of people." Her partner cut in gently, voice even and controlled. "You think she doesn't know that? She knew before she stepped in this room." A hush fell, because that statement, calm, factual, hit harder than any outburst. The board advisor swallowed hard and added, "If the directive finalizes, your stock will plummet at opening bell, possibly beyond recovery." The woman in yellow spun toward the crowd, tears forming. "We can fix this. We can issue a statement, an apology, something." A man in a silver vest shook his head. "It's too late. The override logs everything. The markets don't forgive this kind of chaos." "And neither does she," someone whispered. But the black woman's gaze, when she finally lifted it, held no malice. It held something far sharper, clarity. "This isn't about revenge," she said quietly, each word landing with the weight of a verdict. "It's about accountability. The woman in yellow's knees buckled. She grabbed a table for balance. "No, please. I swear I didn't know who you were." A slight tilt of the black woman's head. A controlled, devastating truth. "And that's exactly why you felt comfortable speaking to me that way." Her partner stepped to her side, a shadow of unwavering loyalty. The guests shrank back, the power shift unmistakable. A new alert pulsed on her screen, this one marked in a deep, unmistakable red. "Final biometric. Required withdrawal imminent." The board member's breath caught. "It's waiting for your fingerprint, Mom." The black woman brought the phone closer. Panic rippled through the hall. The father raised both hands as if in surrender. Wait. You're condemning all of us because my daughter acted improperly? That's disproportionate." The black woman studied him for a long, cold second. Then, "She acted with your permission." His face crumpled. He said nothing. The woman in yellow, once radiant with arrogance, now looked small under the chandelier's gold shimmer. "I'm begging you," she whispered, voice shaking. "Don't destroy us." The black woman inhaled slowly, as if drawing in the weight of the moment itself. Then she pressed her thumb to the screen. A soft chime, quiet, elegant, merciless, confirmed the action. The board member's phone buzzed violently. She read the message as her face went pale. "It's done," she whispered. "The $1. 1.9B Lifeline. It's gone." The ballroom broke. Gasps, collapsed shoulders, hands covering mouths, a woman sobbing into her gown, phones lighting up with alerts, news, and red-level financial warnings. The woman in yellow sank into a chair, eyes empty. The black woman simply lowered her phone, slid it back into her clutch, and stood still amidst the ruin, calm, composed, untouched by the chaos she had every right to unleash. And as the lights trembled over the marble floor, one truth settled over the room like falling ash. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't lift a hand. She didn't need to. Her silence had been the execution. The ballroom didn't erupt all at once. It buckled quietly first, then violently. The first crack came from a cluster of investors near the bar, their phones lighting up with market alerts the moment the $1 9B withdrawal hit the system. One man whispered, "Oh no, no, this is catastrophic." Another stumbled backward, nearly knocking over a tray of champagne. Then a woman in a sapphire gown gasped, her face draining as she read the message on her screen. "It's trending already," she muttered. "The press has the financial logs." They know it was a signatory override. The whispers spread like wildfire. Panic followed. Guests who had once been statues of composure now moved in fast. Jagged motions calling assistance, texting legal teams, refreshing their banking dashboards like life rafts. The marble floor echoed with frantic heels, clumsy apologies, and the unmistakable throb of an empire unraveling in real time. In the center of the storm, the black woman remained perfectly still. Her quietness wasn't absence, it was ownership. The woman in yellow clutched the edge of a chair, knuckles white, breath trembling. "Dad," she whispered, "we're finished. Aren't we?" Her father didn't answer, couldn't. His phone buzzed again, a relentless, merciless vibration. When he finally looked down, his expression cracked open, equal parts disbelief and defeat. "They've pulled the bridge loan," he choked out. "Our lenders, every one of them, they're distancing themselves. They think we provoked the override." A man nearby swore under his breath. "They're right," he muttered. "You did." The father spun toward him, but the man stepped back, hands lifted in self-preservation. Even the onlookers, once eager spectators, now recoiled from the family as though their downfall were contagious. The woman in yellow looked around wildly, mascara smudged, voice small. "Why is everyone acting like this is my fault? I didn't know who she was." "That's the problem," someone answered. It was soft, but it cut deeper than any shout. The father tried again, voice breaking with fragile pride. "We can fix this. Well, call the board, issue a statement, reverse the narrative." "We're past narrative," said a woman near him, shaking her head. "This is structural damage. No PR team can patch a $1 9B hole." News alerts appeared on phone screens across the room. Windsor Financial Lifeline withdrawn. Mid-gala, anonymous leak hints at internal misconduct. Apex Meridian CEO linked to override event. The woman in yellow clutched her head, overwhelmed. "My God!" she whispered. "Everyone will think we're corrupt." Her father closed his eyes. "Not corrupt," he said hoarsely. "Irrelevant." A quiet, devastating word. Across the ballroom, the black man in the navy suit stepped closer to the black woman, not touching her, but aligning himself like a silent perimeter. His eyes tracked every movement around them, not out of fear, but out of instinct. Protection wasn't what she needed. Recognition was. The black woman finally moved. A single step. Just one. But it sliced through the room with the weight of a gavel. Her presence pulled every eye, every breath, every heartbeat toward her. People straightened, held still, as though any sudden movement would expose their complicity. The father cleared his throat, desperate to reclaim even a sliver of control. "I want to speak on behalf of my family," she looked at him. A slow, measured turn of the head. He stopped instantly, because something in her eyes made speech feel like trespassing. The chandeliers flickered again, casting fractured gold over her silhouette. Behind her, chaos intensified. Guests calling drivers to leave early, executives pacing in circles, assistants live-streaming the market crash to their bosses. But around her, a bubble of calm formed a stillness so complete it was almost reverent. The woman in yellow stared at her, trembling. Why aren't you saying anything?" she whispered. The black woman didn't answer, because she no longer needed words. The truth was already tearing through the ballroom, through the markets, through the lives of everyone who had witnessed the moment she pressed her fingerprint to that screen. Her silence had become a force, a judgment, a consequence, and there was nothing left for her to add. She had already rewritten their future. The moment she stepped back from the center of the marble floor, the ballroom finally lost the last threads holding it together. It didn't explode. It collapsed the way a building falls from the inside first. People were no longer speaking in full sentences. They were sputtering fragments of panic. "Pull the assets now. Who leaked the logs? Call the board. Why isn't anyone answering? Oh my God, this can't be happening." The music had stopped long ago, but the silence didn't feel empty. It felt crowded, packed tight with fear, humiliation, and the dawning realization that they would be remembered not for their wealth, not for their power, but for this moment, a moment they created. Near the stage, two men in tailored tuxedos compared their phones with trembling fingers. "Market futures are already reacting," one whispered. "It's dropping. Hard. If they open tomorrow like this, Windsor Financial might not survive the week." Another guest, her diamond necklace shaking against her collarbone, pointed at the black woman with disbelief. "She stood there and didn't even raise her voice," she whispered. "And somehow, she changed everything." Her friend replied hollowly, "Because she didn't need volume. She had authority." Across the ballroom, the father, once an image of unshakable stature, sat slumped in a gold-trimmed chair, elbows on knees, face buried in his hands. His phone buzzed relentlessly. He ignored all of it. Every alert was another bruise. The woman in yellow kneeled beside him, makeup smudged, breath thin. "Dad, say something, please." He lifted his head slowly. Too slowly. "I told you. This world doesn't give second chances," he murmured. "Not at this level." "But she could forgive us," his daughter whispered desperately, eyes flicking toward the black woman. "No," he said, shaking his head. "People like her don't forgive. They don't need to." His voice cracked not in anger, but in the painful awareness that everything he believed about hierarchy, about power, had been wrong. Nearby, the black man in the navy suit watched the family with solemn calm. He kept a respectful distance from the black woman, but remained in her orbit anchored, alert, steady. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. She nodded once, her expression unreadable. "I'm fine." But the word didn't carry arrogance, it carried finality. The ballroom doors suddenly burst open and a wave of cold air rushed in as more guests rushed to leave early, calling their drivers, trying to escape before the media arrived. Because the media always arrived. And once they did, the story would no longer belong to anyone in this room. A woman in an emerald dress hurried past, clutching her shawl. "Do you think she planned this?" she whispered to her husband. He shook his head, dazed. "No, because she didn't need to plan." They created the moment, and she simply responded. From across the hall, another notification chimed on someone's device. Breaking. $1.9B. Withdrawal confirmed. Windsor family spiral. Internal conflict. Caught at gala. The woman in yellow let out a small, broken noise. "What have we done?" "It's not what you've done tonight," said a voice behind her. "It's what you've done for years." She turned sharply to find one of their own board members staring at her, arms folded, expression exhausted. "Tonight just exposed it," he added. Her eyes burned. "You're all turning on us?" "No," he said gently. "We're waking up." The chandeliers cast long shards of golden light across the floor, catching the green silk of the black woman's top as she walked toward the exit with her partner. Every movement she made was deliberate, measured, unhurried. As she approached the doorway, someone from the crowd whispered, "That's what real power looks like." Another replied, "Not loud, just inevitable." The woman in yellow stumbled to her feet, reaching out as if to call after the black woman, but her hand fell before she gained the courage. "What do we do now?" she asked into the empty air. Her father answered without looking at her. "We rebuild," he said quietly, "but not tonight." The black woman paused at the threshold for barely a second, not to look back, not to savor the moment, but to breathe in the clean, cool air beyond the ballroom. The kind of air you inhale only after walking through fire and refusing to burn. Behind her, the room shook with the wreckage of their own making. But ahead of her, a silent hallway, a long corridor of light, and a world that had just rearranged itself around her name. She stepped forward. The door closed gently behind her. The moment she stepped beyond the ballroom's heavy doors, the world outside greeted her not with calm, but with consequence. The corridor glowed with cooler lighting than the golden hall behind her, casting a soft blue sheen along the marble walls. It felt cleaner out here, wider, easier to breathe. Yet even in this relative quiet, the aftershocks of what she had done pulsed through the air like distant thunder. Her partner walked beside her, matching her pace without a word. He had learned long ago that silence wasn't emptiness for her. It was calibration. A security attendant stationed in the hallway glanced up when they approached, then stiffened, recognizing the magnitude of the situation even without understanding the details. He stepped aside respectfully, offering a slight nod. Not out of fear, but recognition. As she passed, a faint glow flickered from the screens embedded into the corridor walls. Financial news, gala coverage, camera feeds from the venue. One screen suddenly shifted to breaking footage. A bold headline appeared across the ticker, "Apex Meridian Override. Confirmed. $1.9B withdrawal. Detonates at Windsor Gala." Her partner exhaled sharply. "It's already out." Another screen updated with synchronized urgency. Market futures reacting. Analysts predict devastating ripple. She didn't slow. She didn't speed up. Her stride remained perfectly even steady, poised, grounded. "Did you expect it this fast?" he asked. "Information moves faster when people feel threatened," she said simply. Behind them, the ballroom doors shuddered as frantic voices spilled through the cracks, pleading, arguing, bargaining with ghosts that would not save them. But the corridor belonged to her now. As they turned the corner toward the main lobby, her phone buzzed only once. A single message banner appeared, clean, precise. "Apex Ops. Directive executed. Confirmation complete." Board standing by for follow-up. Her partner peeked over. "They're awake. They had to be," she replied. "Crises don't sleep." They reached a balcony overlooking the grand hotel foyer below. From this vantage, she could see the city beyond the glass, the skyline glittering under the night, unaware and indifferent to the storm about to hit its markets come morning. But the foyer itself was already reacting. Guests who had fled the ballroom now congregated in clusters around the bar. The elevators, the lobby stairs, faces pale, fingers tapping frantically across phone screens. Conversations crackled through the air. She pressed it right there in the ballroom. "Do you realize what this means for the board? Windsor is finished, completely finished. It's the biggest financial collapse caused by one decision in years." A young investment analyst rushed past, phone pressed against his ear. "No! Listen," she wasn't yelling. She wasn't dramatic. She barely moved. That's what made it terrifying. Her partner rested one hand on the balcony railing. You know, he murmured, people will spin this. Some will call you ruthless. Ruthless is acting without reason, she replied. Everything tonight had reason. And others, he added, will call it justice. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she watched the chaos unfolding below, the fear, the panic, the collapse. Then she turned away. Justice wasn't the word she cared about. Correction was. As they moved deeper into the foyer, several guests glanced up, recognizing her instantly, not because she sought attention, but because the energy around her had shifted. She wasn't just the woman they underestimated. She was the epicenter. One man from a major firm started toward her, his expression desperate. "Miss Williams, please, can we talk?" "Our board." Her partner stepped slightly forward, intercepting the attempt with a single look that froze the man mid-sentence. "We're done for tonight," he said, voice calm but non-negotiable. The man nodded, stepping back with a stammered apology. They continued toward the exit. More screens lit up as they passed. Windsor CFO resigns amid crisis. Employee unrest, expected at opening bell. Analysts say the withdrawal was a precision strike. Her partner glanced at her. "You knew this fallout would hit fast." She adjusted her clutch lightly. "I didn't choose the timing," she said. "Their behavior did." Outside the revolving doors, the night air met her cool, crisp, carrying the faint hum of the city. A black sedan waited at the curb, headlights soft, engine quiet. Before stepping in, she paused. Not to look back at the chaos, not to savor victory, but to breathe. A long inhale that tasted like freedom, resolve, and inevitability. Behind her, the foyer continued to swirl with panic. Ahead of her, the city lights reflected against the car window. Sharp, clean lines of a world she controlled, not through noise, but through consequence. Her partner opened the door. "Ready?" She nodded once. "Let's go. We're done here." And as the door closed, sealing her away from the wreckage, the final truth echoed through the night. She didn't destroy them. They walked into their own downfall. She simply refused to step out of the way. By morning, the city spoke her name without hesitation. Financial networks replayed the gala clip beside plunging charts, framing the withdrawal as a clean, surgical correction. The Windsors issued a statement before sunrise, thin, brittle, already ignored. In her high-rise office, sunlight spilled across polished glass as she scanned the final reports. Everything had settled exactly where it belonged. Her partner entered quietly. "It's done," he said. She closed the file. "No," she answered softly. "It's aligned." And the day moved forward around her.